Jeremy and I met because Jeremy applied to, at that time, our career summer camp. So he was a junior in high school to learn about occupational therapy. He was very excited about joining us at Misericordia University. He kind of told me this was his dream school. This is where he wanted to go to school for OT. I think we were fortunate enough that we made a good enough impression on him that he wanted a place, I think, that really put a high emphasis on people and service. You know, immediately he made an absolutely great impact. Very people-focused for his age, you know, very mature. He seemed to have an interest in helping other people.
Jeremy was one of the kindest people that I've ever met, and I think he inspired so many people to continue that kindness and that selflessness. He was so driven in service. He would speak to me so many times about how he wanted to change things. And he and I talked a lot about public policy and how it affected the role of OT and healthcare in general and the impact that it had on people who were impoverished. He wanted to make so many changes.
I had the distinct pleasure of teaching Jeremy many classes, OT classes. I was also his level 1 fieldwork supervisor. During a faculty-led fieldwork it was a OT camp that we ran. And then I got to go on 2 mission trips as his mission leader or co-leader with him. Our responsibility was to provide training to the caregivers and those individuals that were serving their community there. And our whole purpose was to provide culturally sensitive and respectful training to ensure that those caregivers really felt empowered to be the best caregivers for the individuals that they served in Jamaica.
Jeremy and I were co-leaders of the trip. We were helping to develop what we would do while we were there, as well as lead the undergrads that were with us through the process of the class as well as the trip itself. At that point, Jeremy had completely grown into a competent occupational therapist and got to just fully put those skills to work.
He had these adults that we were serving, they were following him around. He would get hugs, and he just made everyone feel comfortable for who they were and what they brought to, you know, the situation at hand.
On our very last night, we're all hanging out, kind of processing the trip and taking a breath before we traveled back in the gazebo that's at Jacob's Ladder. Slowly, people started going to bed. Jeremy and I were the last 2 out there, and he was asleep at that point. He had just given everything on that trip, like every last ounce of energy and effort. And so I woke him up and brought him inside, and you could just tell that he had just fully given everything he had on that trip.
He was a search retreat participant and then eventually chosen to be a search retreat leader. So the search retreat is a spiritual retreat for students where they're able to explore new friendships, get to know old friends, and also really learn a little bit more about themselves. What comes to mind when I hear Jeremy's name is him dressed in shorts and a tank top and a tutu in the middle of winter, standing outside doing exercises, 40 degrees, with all these students around him in a circle and laughing and just having a wonderful time being goofy and silly and making everybody smile.
Jeremy was really honest that things didn't always come easy to him, but he learned, and I remember this time he sat in my office and he said, I want to be an OT because I want to help kids break the barriers that are out there. And he said that came from his mom. Rosalind, his mom, he would always share that she was a fierce advocate for him and that he was at Misericordia, he was where he was because of her. And he wanted to pay that forward.
Well, I think Jeremy always embodied the charisms of the university. All that he did here for his 4 years here, he embodied those charisms of service, justice, mercy, and hospitality. What comes to mind about Jeremy is the way that he lifted other people up, not just through his example, but he was so encouraging to others when they were down or when they were struggling. Even despite what he may have been going through, he led by example and he led by loving the people around him.
I would describe Jeremy as someone who could be whatever you needed them to be in that moment to fill whatever gap was needed or whatever role needed to be assumed, whether that was an occupational therapist or a friend or a mentor or a brother or someone who could cheer you up when you were feeling down or crack a well-timed joke or play around a basketball. He was really just anything that was needed in the moment from the group or from you as a person.
Jeremy is misericordia. He has always been, in my mind, who we look for in a student, one that wants to always do better and to encourage people to be better.
Deeply caring, a true friend, an amazing person to be with. I learned more from him, honestly, than I think I taught him in any class that I had. He was remarkable in his commitment to misericordia. He was all in. Everything he did was all in. And we so greatly appreciated that. I think he made people better persons. I know that sounds like high praise, but he gave you his all.